The NHS is so afraid of being called Islamophobic, it's telling midwives that first cousin marriage has benefits. The NHS told midwives that first cousin marriage can have economic and social benefits. It can bring families closer together. Literally. They said staff should not stigmatise predominantly South Asian or Muslim patients who have a baby with their cousin because the practice is perfectly normal in some cultures. I mean, the guidance did admit that, of course, there are some risks to child health associated with close relative marriage, but claimed that they should be balanced against the potential benefits. I mean, get this. The NHS said it's not that bad because it only leads to birth defects in about 10 to 15% of cases. 15%. I mean, just so we're clear, the national average rate for children born without congenital diseases is 98%. If this was white working-class people who were having sex with their first cousins, you just know the NHS would be running huge campaigns to stop it. Just look at some of the nanny state health policies we now have in this country. No junk food adverts before the 9 p.m. watershed, just in case you see a burger and you can't help but drive it into your stomach over and over again. Restaurant chains have to publish the amount of calories in each dish to crack down on obesity. They want to ban smoking outdoors now, not just in pubs, not just indoors, but even in wide open spaces. The NHS updated its guidance to say there is now no safe level of alcohol consumption. None at all. No bit of alcohol that passes your lips. It's safe. I mean, we're even thinking of changing the drink driving laws. And they might ban non-alcoholic beers for 16 and 17-year-olds. So modern medical advice in Britain is that you aren't allowed to look at a burger on the TV before 9 p.m. and your 17-year-old child can't have a 0% Guinness. But if some Muslims want to have sex with their first cousin and run the risk of this happening, and I'm sorry, by the way, but this is quite distressing, but, you know, let's be honest with you, this is what can happen.
Mohsin has a rare genetic disease which is gradually destroying his body.
Yeah, then according to the NHS, there are benefits to that. I mean, quite literally, actually, because the British taxpayer will have to pay for all the benefits that these families claim. If any other community in Britain was doing this, the NHS will be calling for it to be banned. Yet again, the fear of being called Islamophobic gets in the way of what is actually right and proper. There's nothing more important than keeping your money and your identity safe online. And with so many VPN options available, choosing the right one can be pretty daunting. But this video's sponsor, ExpressVPN, is making the choice easier for GB News viewers. ExpressVPN is offering up to 75% off, plus 4 extra months free. That's top-level security from just £2.49 a month, and you're covered by their 30-day money-back guarantee. So just click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code now. Remember, when you're online, you are often sharing personal data, so hackers can steal your information, your passwords, your photos, and your bank details in just seconds. But ExpressVPN encrypts your connection, making it virtually impossible for hackers to access your personal information. So why choose ExpressVPN? Well, it couldn't be easier to use. With just one click, you are protected. And ExpressVPN uses military-grade AES 256 encryption, which is the same standard trusted by the US government to guard their classified information. With their new tiered plans, you can protect up to 14 devices at once and manage passwords securely. Live chat support is available 24/7, and it typically connects you in under a minute with a real person. Click the link in this video's description or scan the QR code to get up to 75% off ExpressVPN, plus 4 months extra for free. Start protecting yourself today with ExpressVPN. Let's get the thoughts of my panel. Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, journalist Benjamin Butterworth, and the former Tory party chairman now of the Reform Parish, it's Sir Jake Berry. Carol, I'll come to you on this. Now, what on earth is the NHS playing at, saying that, there are benefits to first cousin marriage?
Yeah, the benefits are things like cystic fibrosis, heart, lung and brain defects, deformed skulls, extra fingers. Yeah, are they benefits? What happens to the... And I read a piece on Sunday saying it's up to 15% of children that are born with these defects. What the hell is happening to this health service? Midwives should be looking after kids, not actually promoting what is in fact an Islamic custom. You know, it says here that it said staff shouldn't stigmatise predominantly South Asian or Muslim patients because the practice is perfectly normal in some cultures. Not in this culture, it's not normal.
Exactly.
And the reason it's not against the law in this country, which it should be, is because we don't want to offend Muslims. So the NHS is now, it's been infiltrated by ideologues of all description. We know it's been infiltrated by trans ideologues. Now it's Islamic ideologues. We're terrified of offending Muslims, but we're prepared to have children like the one you just saw on that screen there live miserable lives. And what do these Muslim cultures do, I wonder, with those kids? What kind of lives do those children have? Terrible ones. And to have a health service in this country that is actually advocating that and promoting it is it's worse than obscene. It really is.
I mean,
so angry.
The
about
NHS has launched an investigation, Sir Jake. But again, I'll just put it to you that if this was happening in white working class areas, the NHS would be all over this in the same way they are with alcohol or with, in some cases, non-alcoholic drinks.
I think that's the point, is the NHS is meant to promote everything we can do to make ourselves healthy. So it says people shouldn't smoke. By the way, I happen to agree with that. Now it says people shouldn't drink. I widely disagree with that. But, you know, to have a situation where they are actively promoting through guidance something they know is going to lead in a large number of cases to severe congenital birth defects is deeply, deeply irresponsible. Now, this, of course, this new guidance built on guidance that was issued in September last year, in which they cited the marriage of Henry VIII to Catherine Howard, saying that because that happened in the 15th century, it was culturally normal in the UK. No, it's not culturally normal. Mm-hmm. And actually, Catherine Howard wasn't even Henry VIII's first cousin. He was his ex-wife's first cousin. But, you know, and all of that new guidance came out because a Conservative Member of Parliament put a private Act of Parliament into Parliament to ban this. The Gaza Independent spoke against it. Many Labour MPs voted against it. This is a sign of the sectarianisation of our politics in this country, where people will vote for something we know and understand to be wrong in order not to upset certain elements of the community. And they're all in Labour marginal seats, and that's what's really driving this. It's the Labour Party's fear of being defeated at the next election.
The NHS, I would hope, would be, apart from the obvious unionisation of it, be relatively apolitical. But we're seeing it now, their refusal to accept rulings about trans stuff. I mean, they just lost a big case against the Darlington nurses, and now refusing to really come out and really hammer the fact that, you know, you probably shouldn't be having sex with your first cousin and, you know, raising a disabled child in modern Britain.
Yeah, I mean, needless to say, I think that sleeping with your first cousin or anyone closer than that is a very bad idea. I mean, when you're saying, you know, I'm going speed dating, where you going, family reunion, it's quite a bad sign. And I think it should alarm us that in the NHS, they have not been clear about this. And I think there probably are quite weak reasons for that. I mean, Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, he condemned this as shocking and inappropriate and said that no NHS advice should be of this nature. So hopefully that will get fixed. But I do actually think it's right to ask the questions of how you got to the point where presumably intelligent people with good jobs, well-paid roles in the NHS thought it was appropriate to put this advice down.
Is it not fear of being called Islamophobic? Is that not the ultimate thing in this country? Just behind that, you've got the fear of being called transphobic. But really, number one is you can't be seen to be Islamophobic, and that happens at the expense of everything else. It's happened with the police force that we've seen recently. It's happened with the grooming gangs that we're seeing at the moment. It's happening now with the NHS.
I actually would say that, I mean, that may be part of it, for sure, but it's actually worse than that, because I think it's quite insulting to think that, you know, those people from Muslim families and those ethnic backgrounds, that it's just OK for them to suffer with these horrendous hereditary diseases that the children born out of these marriages get.
No one's making them do it, though,
no, but I'm saying the fact that professionals will give that advice and turn the other way and not stop it is actually really insulting to those communities.
Well, it's the bigotry of low expectations.
Precisely.
I mean, this is the National Health Service that is actually saying to hell with hundreds of children who are going to be disfigured, deformed, not able to live normal lives. And they're doing it to actually not offend Muslims. You know, there is no benefits to first cousin marriages, none whatsoever. All there is deformities. And I don't care if 85% of children aren't affected. If 15% are, try I've been one of those kids. That's lots of ruined lives, thanks to a health service that is terrified of offending Muslims. It's disgusting.
And it's not just this. This is happening all over the NHS. A good friend of mine is a consultant in the NHS in England, and he's told me he's just thinking of leaving because his every single day is dominated by a course he has to go on to tell him to, quote, check his white privilege. They have lessons about what equates to a microaggression. I don't really know what a microaggression is, but the entire...
Look, you know what
I'll
it is?
show you.
Do you know what it is? It's looking at someone the wrong way. That's a microaggression.
So the whole of the NHS now has been captured by this DEI agenda.
Yeah.
And we've got, huge waiting lists. We've got people desperate for healthcare. I want people, these doctors and nurses, out of this sort of the lecture hall being told what they can and can't think about various people and groups in this country. And I want them back on the wards treating people. And finally, on cousin marriage, it should be illegal.
Yeah,
all of the arguments they have deployed, it brings family close together, economic benefits. You can make the same arguments for marrying your own sister or a father having a child with his own daughter. It is against British culture. It's completely wrong. It should be a crime. And to have the NHS condoning this is a disgrace and a stain on the reputation of our NHS.
And I'll just put this to you, this talk about, you're going to ban someone from having a 0% Guinness when they're 17 in case that drives them towards a life of alcoholism, which is absolutely ridiculous. Nobody has ended up becoming an alcoholic because at the age of 16 they had a 0% Corona, right? So that's not it at all. So that's mad. You've got all these junk food adverts that you can't use. There was that bloke who a comedian who did the Hot Diggity Dog tour, and he couldn't advertise it with an actual hot dog on the London Underground. They had to replace the hot dog with a cucumber because they didn't want to promote junk food to people on the London Underground. But meanwhile, the actual National Health Service is like, is that your first cousin, is it? Crack on.
Right.
I mean, I recommend 17-year-olds or 18-year-olds trying a Guinness because I had Guinness at 18. It went horribly wrong and I didn't drink it until I was 33. So it's probably
last week was your first Guinness.
It was last month. It was quite good at putting me off. So maybe that is good health advice to try Guinness.
But I can't really replicate that with cousins, though, can I?
No, indeed. I don't advise that at all. And what I would say is that I think it's an exaggeration. I think it's hyperbole what Jake says to suggest that the whole of the NHS and the tens of thousands of workers think along these lines. I think that is unreasonable. The vast majority of people will know and advise against this, as the Health Secretary has.
But Benjamin, it's the institution that has been captured. I'm not saying all the workers think that, but actually these people have a career. And if you go to a lecture and they say, if you don't do this, this and this, if you don't encourage people to marry their first cousin, it will affect your career, your ability to have a mortgage, pay your car finance, get on in your job. People alter their behaviour. The institution has been captured and it's completely wrong.
Scientists have spent time, effort and money in researching the congenital defects of what happens when you have first. What was the point of all of that?
Yeah.
So they have the information, they've just chucked that away and said,
it's just another thing. Again, come back to it. If this was white working class people who were doing this and we were seeing this kind of impact to public health and the taxpayer was being made to pick up the tab for it, which they absolutely are, and they don't tend to just have one children with this, that piece, that documentary I showed you before, that guy had like 2 or 3 brothers who are also, very sadly, also suffering with illnesses. So, I mean, unquestionably, we're going to be ending up paying for entire families here. It's a burden to the taxpayer, it's not fair on the kids, and there's no other community in this country where if it was happening with that regularity, it would be allowed to carry on. Simple as that. The NHS spokesperson has said the NHS absolutely recognises the genetic risks of consanguineous relationships and where people consider entering into them. We offer referral to genetic services so individuals understand the risks and can be made more informed. We are investigating if this inappropriate wording is in any guidance or training, and if so, we will take steps to remove it.
Clearly don't read their own guidance, do they?
So there you are.